Alright, so we just finished the wizard-based installer and we're back at the vRealize appliance login. So the first thing we want to do is go change the URL just to the fully qualified domain name of the appliance. We'll go to that home page, and then we'll just want to go to click on this vRealize automation console to get us started here. And now we're going to log in as administrator and the password that you set during the wizard-based installer. And from here, we're basically in the default tenant login. So what we're going to do is go ahead and first create a new user in the tenant vSphere.local. It's going to be go ahead and click here, and then we'll create a new local user first. And then click new here. And we'll just call this vRA, last name admin. This could just be vRA admin corp. And keep in mind, this is just a local account. It's not an actual Active Directory account. It's just used to actually set up the authentication to Active Directory at a later point. So we'll just name this vRA admin and give it a password that we remember. And then click OK here. And then click over to the administration tab, and then go ahead and make that both tenant administrator and IaaS administrator. Just start looking for OK, and then go ahead and click finish here. And then at this point, you could also set up your email servers vRA configuration, but we're just focusing on quickly provisioning blueprints today, so we're just going to jump right to the next step. So from here, you can go ahead and log out, and then we'll click go back to login page, and then we're going to now click and log in as that vRA admin again. Oops. And now we've presented with a couple more options. So first thing we're going to do is go ahead and configure authentication. So click on administration and directories management. And then we're going to go ahead and click on directories here. And then we're going to add a directory. And we're going to add Active Directory over LDAP. And the directory name is going to be corp.local in my environment, but that would be, this is just an identifier, so whatever name that you have for your environment. And then we'll do Active Directory Integrated Windows Authentication. And then sync connector. Since we only have one appliance, it'll just be the appliance we installed earlier. And then authentication, we'll choose yes to also perform authentication. And then directory search attribute, we'll just leave that as default. I'm not using SSL on my domain, but if you are, then you may want to check this box. And then we're going to choose our domain details. So corp.local, an account that corp.local. It doesn't have to be an administrator account, it's just any account that has access to join to the domain. So it could be just some sort of service account you set up for vRA. Okay, and then we'll need the bind user UPN, just a user who can authenticate to the domain. So administrator at corp.local again, and the password. Then we'll click Save and Next here. Oops. Okay, I think I gotta. Oh, domain name. Got the wrong. Got a little issue here. It's just the administrator name. Let's try that now. That's joining the appliance to your Active Directory domain. Now we'll select the domains, so it's corp.local. We'll click Next. Now we can map these properties to whatever properties actually make more sense in your organization. So this is so that approvals and any emails we send out, or the login name that's displayed, for example, here is correct. So just go through and make sure that they match to whatever attribute name is actually valid in Active Directory, and then click Next. Now we need a distinguished name to search for groups. So click Add here. Let's see. And so what I'm going to do is, to get that group name, and use a little tool that's on Windows domain controller servers. Let's go to Administrative Tools. It's called ADSI Edit. So I'm going to connect to my Active Directory domain here. My corp.local domain. So my search DN is going to be users. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on that, go to properties, and then I can go down to distinguish name. Let's see, probably passed already. Go ahead and view that, copy and paste that. So mine's not too complicated, but if you wanted to start it in a specific group in your Active Directory, this name may get very complex. So just use ADSI Edit to browse to that group, right click on it, properties, go to distinguish name, double click, and then you can copy and paste that to clipboard. Just an easy way to find the distinguished name. So go ahead and add this name here. We'll find groups. I'm going to sync all the groups. You could select individual groups. I'm just going to sync them all today. And then we'll go do the same for user counts. So I'm just going to search users. Oops, I need two, I guess. And we'll go ahead and click next here. So you can see it's going to sync 32 users that are in my Active Directory and 31 groups. However, I did it at the base OU, so I'm syncing the whole directory. You may not want to do that. You may want to pick a specific group that has your target users. So the users would be the users who are going to be logging in as a cloud administrator to set up the environment, but also your end users. So you may not want to sync the whole directory if you have 20,000 employees and you have 5,000 or 20,000 groups. You may just want to pick a DN that's actually much closer to where your users are, just so you don't sync everything. But I'm just syncing everything for this example just to run through this demo really quickly. So now we'll just sync the directory. So we can also hit refresh, see how many groups have been synced. So I got a pretty small Active Directory, only took a few seconds. However, if you have a large directory, it may take some time. Okay, so now that we've got our authentication set up, we've integrated our Active Directory, synced our groups and our users, we can now continue in the configuration. So we're going to go ahead and log out. And we'll go back to the login screen. And you see now there's a selection of corp.local or that vSphere.local, which is a local account or domain to the appliance. We're going to go ahead and log back into that first, and then we're going to add a Active Directory user to be able to access this installation. Let's go ahead and click Next. And again, we'll log as that administrative user, so administrator, and then the password we set for it earlier. And now we could also create a new tenant. So if you wanted to create a tenant specific to your organization, you could do that. But for simple proof of concepts or evaluation, it's perfectly fine to use vSphere.local. So here now we'll add administrators, and then we'll search Active Directory. So I have that cloud admin role. So I've pre-created this account in my Active Directory. This is the account that I want to use to administer the vRealize automation installation as an administrator, not a user. We'll get to a user later. This is just a administrator user. They'll log in and see more functionality, more tabs to actually configure the storage, the vSphere environment, multiple clouds. And then we'll also add them as the IaaS administrator. Oops, if I can spell. Okay, so it looks good there. Now we'll go ahead and click Finish. Now we'll go ahead and log out here again. And we'll go back to login screen. And now you see here the login set to vSphere.local. We're going to go ahead and change that to a different domain. Change that to corp.local. And now log in as that cloud admin at corp. Oops. Local. Or actually you could just do admin. It already knows the domain. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and sign in. So now you see we're getting a little closer to being able to configure the system. We've got infrastructure and containers tab depending on your licensing. We'll go ahead and go to the infrastructure tab here. And the first thing we're going to do is configure our endpoints. So what we want to do is go ahead and click on endpoints and then endpoints again. And here you'll be able to add your new endpoint. So we've got multiple options here for Amazon, vCloud Air, vCloud Direct, or OpenStack. The Azure endpoint, you may have noticed, is not here. It's actually been moved to a new endpoint framework that's part of the way we've deployed Azure. It's in a different screen, but just rest assured it is a valid endpoint that you can configure as well. You just do it in a different screen. But today we're going to actually focus on the virtual vSphere endpoint. So we'll go ahead and go to virtual vSphere vCenter. And then you're going to give it a name. So the name must be what you specified as the agent name during the wizard-based install. And by default, it's almost always lowercase v, capital case C, E, N, T, E, R, vCenter. And then the host name is always the fully qualified domain name, HTTPS to the vCenter server, and then /SDK. So for example, HTTPS : / mine is VCSA -01a.corp.local /SDK. Okay. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is click on credentials now. So these are going to be the credentials that will actually, from vRA, log into vCenter to provision systems, do inventory of all your storage, networking, and hosts and clusters. So we'll go ahead and click New. And I always name this just vCenter. And then the username is in the form of username at your legacy domain name. So mine is administrator at corp.local. And again, I'm just using this for ease of use. It does not have to be your domain account. It can just be any account that has access, administrative access to the cluster or the resources you want to provision to. Because remember, when users are provisioning through the system, they're logging as their credentials, but when it's talking to vCenter, it's this service account. So it's never their user account. So this service account needs the access to actually provision, clone a VM, destroy a machine. But it's doing it on behalf of that customer. They don't actually have access to vCenter. So enter the password for this. And you can use this account again for other credentials within the system, but this one's for vCenter at the moment. And then just click the green checkbox here. Make sure that's saved, and then click OK. Then you can also specify an NSX manager and credentials as well. If you're integrating NSX, that would be the next step. However, in this example, we're not showcasing that today. We may have previous Getting More series or some future ones where we showcase the NSX integration, but today we're just focusing on pure vCenter and blueprints without networking security integration. Now we'll go ahead and click OK. And now the next thing we're going to do is go over here to fabric groups. And then go ahead and click New Fabric Group. And for this, just for this example, I just name it Dev Team. And the administrator I'm going to make myself. Let's see. Oops. And you can see there's no compute resources yet. That's probably because I just set up the vSphere endpoint agent, and it's probably still doing some inventory. So we can go ahead and click OK, and then we can wait a few minutes just to see if that comes back. This will be a typical experience in your environment too. Let's go ahead and edit that now, see if we've got, yeah. So just took a few minutes. What it's doing is going out and talking to vCenter. It's doing an inventory of all your clusters, any hosts that you have, the storage, any network port groups that you've set up. So I've got a pretty small environment. I've only got 4 hosts and 1 vCenter, but if you have a large environment, it may take a few minutes, 5 or 10 minutes. Just don't be alarmed if there's anything wrong. It's taking some time to actually populate this information before you can add to a fabric group. So I'm going to be provisioning to cluster site A in this example. It's just a 2-node or 2-host cluster that I've set up for my vRealize automation demonstration environment. So we'll select that, go ahead and click OK, and we can move on to our next step. Okay, so what we're going to want to do now is go ahead and start the process of creating our business groups. So what we're going to do first is go back here on the infrastructure tab. Before we do that, what we want to do is set up some machine prefixes. So what we'll do is go to administration here and then machine prefixes. And we're going to set up a new machine prefix just so it's available when we create our business group as a default. So what I usually do is just very simple dev would be the first part of the machine name. So this machine prefix is going to be when vRA provisions a machine to vSphere, it uses a automatic host name setting. So each time it provisions a machine, it's going to make sure it has a unique name. For this example, this is just a very simple way of, a 3-letter and then 3 numbers or 3 digits, and then keeps incrementing that number. However, we have the ability to do custom host naming based on some settings you have, or the user, or the group that's provisioning. For example, if it's database administrators, you could have aura dash the location dash the purpose of the machine, app or web or database, whatever you want, and then some numbers. But this is just the out-of-the-box simple way of doing things. So I'm going to have 3 digits on the end, and then we're going to start with number 1. So when I provision my first machine, you'll see it's going to be dev001. When I do the next machine, it's going to be dev002. Let's go ahead and click the green checkbox there. And now we're going to switch over to the administration tab. And we're going to go to users and groups here. And then we're going to go to business groups. And then we're going to create a new business group. And I'm just going to name this developers. And manager email, again, just to me for now. And we don't have any Active Directory policy set up. However, that is something that is new in this release of vRealize Automation, is we could set up policy of what OU the machines are placed in when they're provisioned, whether that be Windows or Linux. So this isn't dependent on Windows technology only. There are some customers that we have that have the requirement of a Linux machine also needs to be created in OU because they're pushing down some authentication policies to that machine. But in this example, we don't have it configured. However, I do have a guide on my website, vm2cloud.com, if you're interested in setting up and implementing that. And then we don't have any custom properties. This would be where you would create some custom properties based on, for example, if you want to do custom host naming. So based on the group, this could be your first octet of that naming, so aura or Could be dev, whatever you want that to be. And then the group manager role, I'll make myself. So cloud admin. And then we'll just make dev, see if we can find a dev user as the just put the lead developer as the, oh, oops, we don't want that as support role. Let's put that as a user role. So let's put LDev here. And we'll go to next. And then here's, again, where we're going to need the machine prefix that I already created. So we'll use dev here, and then we'll go ahead and click finish. So now we've got our business group set up, and we'll go ahead and move on to the next step. All right, so we're moving right along. Our next step is to go ahead and create our reservations. So we'll go to the infrastructure tab, and then go back to infrastructure here and click on reservations. And so to give you an idea what a reservation is, so you can think of it like a room block at a hotel, and think of your vSphere cluster as the hotel. So for example, if your organization was going to do a convention in Las Vegas and they were going to rent part of the Venetian, they would block out a set of rooms that are available for employees within your organization to book those rooms in. So they're not actually filled with anybody yet. They're just, a set 100 rooms, or one tower of the hotel is reserved for your organization. And then when you check in or when you make your reservation, they make sure those rooms are available for you. They're not going to be consumed by somebody else. So you're just reserving capacity in your vSphere environment for people to provision the blueprints into, to make sure that when they provision, they're not getting an error that says host A or the cluster's out of capacity or it's out of storage. You're just making sure there's enough resources there available. So before we make the reservation, you'll see why I want to create the reservation. What we'll go ahead and do is first create a network profile. So what this is, this doesn't necessarily replace your IPAM system like if you're using Infoblocks. This is just an out of the box way to have some sort of IP or automatic static IP address assignment to be provided if you don't already have investments in something like an IPAM system. So we're going to go ahead and do is create a new profile. It's going to be external. You can see there are options for NAT and routed. Those are when you're integrating with our NSX technology to do advanced networking security, but today we're just going to create an external. So I'm just going to name this one VM network. And then the subnet mask is already stated, and then the gateway I'm going to go ahead and set, which is 1, 2, 1, and then we'll set our DNS server up. 10 corp.local. And then this information is also going to be applied when the VM's provisioned. We're going to inject this into the VM as its DNS and IP settings. So now we'll set up a new network range. So this is, call this 192.168. Oops. 200 through 220. Corp addresses is fine here. We're going to go ahead and start this at 192.168.200, and then 220. So I've got 20 addresses to use for static IP address assignment. And then once I click OK here and go to the next screen, you can see I'm not using any now. If I were using any, you would see that it's being occupied or it's available to be reclaimed or the machine's destroyed and it's still being held. But here you can kind of see that I've got this range of IPs, so when I click apply now, now I can see all the addresses, whether they're allocated or not. And now I can go ahead and click OK, and we can go ahead and create our reservation. So go back now to reservations. And I'm going to create a new reservation. And this is for vSphere vCenter. I'll just name this dev team again, just so it's easy. The tenants for vSphere.local. If you have multiple tenants, you could choose the tenant it's available for. The business group is that developers business group we created earlier. I don't have a reservation policy, and the reason is because I only have one reservation now. However, if you had multiple reservations, this is a way to tag and pin the blueprint to a reservation. So you put a policy for production, development, or staging, or it could be Amazon availability zones. However you want to assign your blueprints to a reservation, it would be based on that policy. But since there's only one, we don't need a policy right now. And then priority one. And the purpose of this is if you had multiple reservations, so you had a bunch of clusters with the same capacity that you wanted to reserve for provisioning to, if you put them all at priority one, it would just round robin between them until they're full. But you could put priority one on the first cluster, priority two on the second cluster, three on the third cluster, and then it would fill cluster one first and then would move on to cluster two and then move on to three. So just a way to stagger how you want to use and utilize your capacity in your environment. And then we'll go to the resources tab and we'll choose the compute resource that we chose in that fabric group. And then machine quota you could set here. I'm just leaving it unlimited for this example. And then how much memory can you use? So I have 8 gigabytes in this cluster. I can definitely hard code that at 8. That would be guaranteed resources, but because I'm using vSphere, I can also oversubscribe. And since this is a development environment, they're not too concerned with performance. It's more just testing and development. So I can actually oversubscribe this to 16. But just keep in mind, if it is going to over provision, over tax that environment, so you got to make sure you're monitoring for that. And then we'll go ahead and assign the storage. And I have 53 gigs of storage free, but again, you can overcommit that if you want. But for this, we'll just say 60. And then you can also, like I said, stagger your storage. So you could fill up a data store first and then fill the next data store, or you could just round robin between them if you want to balance out your storage depending on your requirements. So I'll just do this one since we only have one storage at the moment. Okay, and then you could also pick the resource pool. I'm not doing it for this example, but if that's something that's important to you, you could also choose the resource pool of that cluster as well. And now we'll choose the network. So I'm going to assign these to VM network, and you'll see here why I created the network profile before. So by default, without a network profile, it is relying that network has DHCP available. So it is assuming that when it provisions a machine to that vSphere environment, that there is DHCP running there. If there's not, then you'll need a network profile to assign a static IP address, which I've done. So we'll just choose that VM network profile. And then the property screen, you could again have custom properties. So based on this cluster, you could have again a property to help with that custom host naming. Because it landed in cluster A, that may be part of the host name, depending how you want to set that up again. Then we have the ability to do alerting. It's a very simple alerting. It's not as advanced as what you'll see from something like our vRealize operations product, but we could turn this on and we could basically set some thresholds, 80-20 rule of once 80% of storage is full, send us an email alert so I can add additional capacity. Same with memory and CPU. But for now, we'll just turn that off. We're not going to be using that today. And then we'll go ahead and click OK here. All right, so now that we have the reservation created, we can go ahead and move on to our next step of configuring and creating blueprints and publishing the catalog. All right, now that we've got our reservation created, we can go ahead and start designing and publishing our blueprints. But before that, we got to add a little bit more access rights. As you see, there's no tab here, the design tab, to create your blueprints at the moment. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch over to the administration tab. We're going to go to users and groups. We're going to go to custom groups, create a new custom group, name this cloud admins, and then we're going to give this group all the roles appropriate for creating both blueprints as well as software components, container administration, depending on the license you have. So if you have vRealize automation standard, you may not have some of these features available. They may only be available in advanced or enterprise, but I'm using enterprise now in this demo, so I'm just going to give myself every rights. This is why it's good to be king. Get to give yourself everything. And then go ahead and click next here. And then this group I'm going to make myself a member of, so cloud admin. And then click finish here. And you'll see the tab's not available yet, so just give yourself a little refresh on the browser. In some cases you may have to log out and log in again. It just depends how your browser caches the credentials. So if you don't see the tab after refresh, just log out and log in. You should be able to see the design tab. Alright, so now you can see I've got the design tab, so we can go ahead and start to create our blueprints. And you see here I can click new to create a new blueprint, but before that there's a couple things we need to do to set up our templates or machines in vSphere, as well as some other configuration that needs to be in place before we can actually provision blueprints from vRA. So let's go ahead and switch over to vCenter client now, and then the first thing we're going to want to do is I'm going to be using, in this example, link clones. It's a software-based fast provisioning. If you're using some sort of storage technology that has fast cloning or fast provisioning built in into the storage device, you don't need to use link clones. Link clones do add some overhead because they are software-based cloning and they're using a link to a virtual machine and a shadow copy of it. So it could be some storage overhead. It's perfectly fine in development environments, but if you have your own storage fast provisioning technology built in, I definitely just opt for just using full clones. But if you don't, and like my environment, I don't have storage, it has fast provisioning, I always use link clone just to make it very quick to provision a machine. But to set up a link clone, you need to have a snapshot of the machine. So I just need to take a snapshot of the machine I intend to create a blueprint against. So this is just base snapshot, and then click OK. And the other thing we're going to want to do is create a guest customization. So we'll go to the home screen, customization specifications manager. You can see I already have two created, one for CentOS, one for Windows 2012. But these don't need to be anything specific. Basically, it's just use virtual machine name, corp.local, enter the time zone settings that you want applied to the machine, typical settings for the network, DNS. It doesn't really matter what settings are here because in this example I'm using network profiles. So at the time of provision, all I need is for vCenter to kick off guest customization, and then I'll inject properties from vRA to assign to that VM that whatever I set up in the network profile, the DNS settings, the IP address, the host name, I'll override whatever's here. It's just I need this in place for link clone and guest customization provisioning to work properly. So as long as that's there, let's just go ahead and copy that to the clipboard. So CentOS. And then we can go back to the vRealize appliance. And then before I can take advantage of that snapshot I created, I need to do an inventory first. So we'll go to the infrastructure tab here. And then we'll go to endpoints. And then endpoints again. And then hover over the vCenter endpoint and do view compute resources. And now hover over that compute resource and do data collection. And the actual data collection you need to do is just inventory, so just request an inventory. Because I made a change in vCenter, what's happening is vRA is not aware of that change yet. So I just need to do an inventory data collection really quick, and then vRA will understand that there is a snapshot attached to that blueprint, or to that virtual machine in vSphere, and then I can use that to build my blueprint. So I'm pretty impatient, so I just click refresh here a couple times. In progress. It takes a minute or two, depending on the size of your environment. And again, here you can see that you can set this in a frequency of hours. You could have this run every hour or so. If you're making changes quite often, you may want to make that every hour, but depending on how large your environment, that may tax the vRA system too much. So just use some discretion there when you're setting that up. So that's succeeded. Go ahead and click OK. Now we're ready to go ahead and create that blueprint. So we'll go back to the Design tab and then the Blueprints tab, and then we'll click New. And then we'll name this CentOS 7. This is a simple Linux server. And then the archive days, I'm going to leave it 0, but what this does is it sets a expiration threshold. So after a user in the system hits destroy, it's how long do you want the machine to actually stay active in vCenter. So if a user hits destroy on accident, there's some sort of buffer that you can actually bring that system back to life for them without resorting to tape backup or some sort of restore method. But it could also be an example of your organization has some regulation around how long you keep data. So you need to keep data around for 60 days. The user destroys it, they don't have access to it in vRA, but vCenter, it won't be deleted till 60 days after that. Or it could be used with leases. So somebody's on vacation, their lease ended for this system, and then they really needed it. It won't delete it from vCenter. It gives them like a week or two to come back and put in a help desk ticket to get it restored. And then there are NSX settings. Again, we're not going into that today, but definitely look for some other getting more serious around using the NSX integration with vRealize automation. And then there's also custom properties you can apply to the blueprint. Again, could be used as metadata to create custom host names, or integrating with third-party systems like a ticketing system, or you need some metadata information to run some sort of Puppet manifest or some sort of script inside the guest. We'll just go back to general, click OK here. And what we're going to do is go ahead and drag and drop out a vSphere machine. And I'll go ahead and name this, again, CentOS 7, just so it's easy for me to identify in case I want to build this out to a larger blueprint with multiple machines. It's just more easy visual to understand what the machine is and what its function is. And then your instances, you can hard code this 1 to 30. I'm just going to make this one instance that's available. And then we don't have a reservation policy because, again, I'm only using one reservation in this installation. If you had multiple, you may want to pin this to a certain reservation depending on what's resource available in that cluster, for example. And then we'll go to the build information. So here it's going to be a server. We're not going to create from scratch. Again, if you're using storage that has fast provisioning built in, definitely go ahead and use clone. I don't, so I'm going to use link clone. And then I'll go ahead and browse to the virtual machine that I want to clone from. That's going to be my Linux base OS. And then I'm going to choose the snapshot that I want to use. So again, that vRA base link clone or base, what the base one that I just created. So I'll go ahead and select that, and then the customization spec that I copied earlier. We're going to use that CentOS custom spec, and then we'll go to the Machine Resources tab. So we have two schools of thought of how to deploy these blueprints to the catalog. We have several customers that opt for t-shirt sizing, so they'll create several different blueprints, small, medium, and large. So set small, maybe one or two CPUs, a gig of RAM, and then the maximum is the same, so that it's just basically hard coded into it. But we also have other customers that say, we want to give our users some sort of control over how they provision. So anywhere between 2 and 4 CPUs, anywhere between a gig and 4 gigs, and then the storage is, in this initial deployment, since it's a clone, is non-negotiable, but they can add additional volumes to the machine. So you just want to be able to have a maximum of how much storage they can actually apply to this. So look, let's give them 20 gigs, for example. And in the storage tab, this is the hard disk it's using. You could add additional volumes if you wanted to. The network tab, you can add a network and specify the actual port group it's using. Because I only have one reservation with one port group, it's already going to deploy to that VM network. But you could actually hard code, if you had in your reservation you had multiple port groups assigned, you could pin this to a certain port group. Or more advanced custom integration, you can actually give them a drop down in the actual end user request to be able to select the port group they want to drop on. But again, in this example, I only have one reservation, one port group, so I don't need to specify that here. And security would be if you were using NSX built-in security, and then any custom properties or metadata you want to pass to it. And you'll see when you get into advanced extensibility, there's a lot of custom properties you're going to be adding and integrating here at this level. But for now, since we're just doing a simple CentOS VM, we're just going to go ahead and click Save, and then go ahead and click Finish. Now we're going to go ahead and publish that to the catalog. So highlight the blueprint we just created, click Publish. Okay, now that we have our blueprint created, let's go ahead and entitle that in the catalog so that we can request it. So let's switch over to the Administration tab. And the first thing we're going to want to do is create a service. So this is basically just a way to categorize each of your blueprints. So for example, you have infrastructure blueprints. You may have some blueprints that are full application stacks. You may have some X as a service. You may have containers. Just a way to make the catalog more user-friendly so they can quickly browse to the services that they need. So I'm going to name this new service again. This will be what I consider an infrastructure component, so I'm just going to name it infrastructure. And then we'll go ahead find an icon for it. And to get icons for each of these service tabs and the actual blueprints, you can go to my website. It's vm2cloud.com. And then click on the vRA VCIC icon pack. And then go ahead and download it from here. And it'll download a zip file. Go ahead and unzip that to your desktop. And then you'll be able to browse a directory of all the most common icons. So when I talk about the service icons, it's basically these tabs over here on the left. Whoops. So you see in the image these tabs, and then I've also got icons for the most popular operating systems, different clouds in there, so that you can make the portal really more sexy and user-friendly for your end users experience. So we'll go back to vRealize Automation, go ahead and browse to where I downloaded that icon pack from. And then you'll see there's catalog tabs, and I've got already an infrastructure tab, so it's just this icon here. And then go ahead and click OK on that. And now next step is we'll go to catalog items, and we'll click on that CentOS catalog item we just published. And instead of this blueprint icon, let's go ahead and browse to my icon pack again. And we'll again go to downloads, vCC icon pack, and then operating systems. And then I've got one for CentOS here, just to make it user-friendly. And then let's make sure we select the service, so we're going to have that under the infrastructure service. And then we'll go ahead and click OK here. And then we'll go to entitlements. We're going to create a new entitlement. And I'll just name this dev team. And since we only have one business group, it's already defaulted to that. But if you have multiple, you'd select the business group that you want this to apply to. And select active. And you can specify individual users within the business group, but for this example, just fastest point to showing something provisioning, I'm just going to use all users and groups. That would include me and the development user. And then go ahead and click next here. And then you want to make sure you're entitling that service infrastructure tab. And then the catalog items CentOS 7. And then you'll need to entitle some actions, and these are what we call day 2 actions. So these are after the machine's provisions in vSphere, your end user who requested has control over it. What can they do to that machine on day 2, which would be like, reboot the machine, connect the remote console, power off the machine, destroy the machine. So what I like to do, just for proof of concept or evaluation, just select them all, and then if there's, whoops, go back up here. If there's something you see in the items view after you provision, go ahead and start filtering out the actions you don't want that user to have. All these actions as well can have an approval policy too, so they could request to destroy a machine, but it may not destroy until their manager actually approves for that. So we'll go ahead and click OK. And then finish. And now if we go to our catalog tab, we should see our new blueprint available. So it's infrastructure. I don't have the tabs like I show it on my website yet, because you don't have more than one service and one catalog item set up. But as soon as you have more than one, it's going to show the tabs on the side and the infrastructure icon. But to make it simple, it's just one service and one catalog item at the moment. So I'll go ahead and I'm not going to request this here. I always recommend that if you're testing blueprints, always log in as the end user to do that, so that you ensure that they have the appropriate rights to actually complete their task. It's not using the rights that you have as a cloud admin. So what I'm going to do is actually open up another browser window in incognito mode. And then just go to the portal, and I'll just log in again as that development user, so ldev. And now you can see when they log in, they don't have all the tabs that you have, because they're only concerned with catalog items that they need to provision. So what I'll go ahead and do is click on catalog, go ahead and request this CentOS 7 machine. I'll give it a description. This is my demo, and I need it. And then just one deployment, and we'll go ahead and click submit. And then OK. And they can watch the status of this over on the request tabs as well, just to see it's in progress now. Then what you'll see is on vSphere, it's going to go back to the home, hosts and clusters, and then you'll see in the recent task, it's going to start up and start cloning that machine here shortly. See if we make sure we don't have any errors here. Still ramping up. There you see it's starting to do its thing. It's cloning that virtual machine, and because of the link clone, you can see it's very quick. And you'll see here it's using that prefix I assigned earlier, so it's dev001. Now it's going to insert that static IP address from that network profile that we created earlier. And then once it's provisioned, we'll get a status of completed here. And you'll be able to see it in the items view. All right, so now that that's provisioned, we got the successful status here. And then we can go over to the items view. And now we can see our deployment. So our CentOS 7 deployment, we'll click on our dev001 machine. And now here you can see all those day 2 actions, the destroy, expire, install tools. I always like to put all of them just so you can see what is available visually. But again, you may not want them to have install tools or suspend or connect using vMRC depending on your preference. So you can definitely take those away based on that ACL I showed you earlier with entitlements. So that concludes the demo. What we've shown is setting up vRA for after the wizard base install, just to get things up and running and run a smoke test, provisioning to vSphere, show some results, starting to build out your self-service catalog. From here you can go ahead, switch back to that cloud admin role and then begin to build more blueprints, custom integrations, integrate extensibility with vRealize Orchestrator, whatever you want to do.